Welcome to the lesson on basic concepts of circles. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define a circle and identify the interior and exterior of a circle. You will be able to define and distinguish between the radius, the diameter, and the chord of a circle. You will also be able to define and identify major and minor arcs, segments, and sectors of a circle. Meet Mr. A, a moving point. Right now, Mr. A has all the freedom to move in whichever direction he wants to. Let's see what happens if we restrict this movement a little. Meet Mr. O, a fixed point. We asked Mr. A to move so that his distance from Mr. O always remains the same. For this, we have joined Mr. A and Mr. O with a line. Do you notice any change in Mr. A's movement? The path now traced by Mr. A forms a circle. Mr. A's motion around Mr. O is the same as the motion of the tip of a pencil fixed in a compass. Using this depiction, we define a circle as a collection of all the points on a plane that are at an equal distance from a given fixed point on the plane. Here the fixed point is point O, and it is called the center of the circle. The length of the edge of the circle traced around the center is called the circumference of the circle. Let's draw a circle on this piece of paper. How many parts does the paper get divided into? A circle divides a paper into 3 parts. The area outside the circle, that is, the exterior of the circle itself, and the area inside the circle, that is, the interior of the circle. The circle and the interior area together comprise the circular region occupied by the circle. Remember the line we used to join Mr. A and Mr. O. This line is the fixed distance at which Mr. A moved around Mr. O. This distance is also called the radius. A line segment joining the center of a circle with any point on its circumference is called the radius of the circle. The term radius is used to represent both the line segment joining the center to the circumference and the length of that line segment. Coming back to Mr. A, he has found a companion, Mr. B. Both these points lie on the circumference of the circle. Rather than going around in a circle, Mr. A and B have found a direct way to connect with each other. The line segment AB that joins the 2 points on the circumference of a circle is called a chord. Mr. A and Mr. B have decided to move. The interesting part about their new position is that now the line segment joining these two passes through the center of the circle. Line segment AB is a special chord. The chord AB that passes through the center of the circle is called the diameter of the circle. Now, this special chord, called the diameter, has some very interesting properties. First of all, it divides a circle into 2 equal parts. Each part is called a semicircle. Another interesting part is that the diameter of a circle is equal to twice the length of the radius of the circle. A diameter also happens to be the longest chord of a circle. Remember Mr. A and Mr. B? Suppose there is no direct way in the form of the chord AB to move from A to B. How do you travel from A to B then? You can move along the circumference of the circle. The part of the circumference of the circle between points A and B is called an arc. Now, is there only one way to move from A to B along the circle? Actually, there are two. You can either take the longer path called the major arc or the shorter path called the minor arc. As mentioned earlier, a diameter divides the circle into two equal arcs called semicircles. How do you cut a cake? Well, one way is to just cut across it, like drawing a chord. Now, which of these two parts would you like to have? A chord divides a circular area into two parts called segments. The larger part is called the major segment. The smaller part is called the minor segment. You would obviously prefer the major segment as your share of the cake. A diameter divides a circle into two equal segments. Another way of cutting a cake is starting from the center and cutting it across two radii to cut a wedge. The region enclosed by any two radii of a circle and the arc between them is called a sector. The major arc forms the larger or major sector. The minor arc forms the smaller or minor sector.